always has a different story for you. My son, my adopted son at the time, was tragically murdered at work. And I was in the midst of, it's almost like I wrote a story that's fiction. And then as my life continued from right after writing it, my life almost paralleled to it.
Welcome to the True Fiction Project, a podcast series that explores the origins of fiction. Every week, we begin with an interview, nonfiction, followed by a creative piece, fiction, inspired by something from the interview. The idea is to demonstrate, of course, that fiction is born out of our life experiences. Now, here's your host, storyteller, author, public speaker, health and wellness expert, Rhonda Hora.
Welcome back to the True Fiction Project. I am your host, Rhonda Hora. And on today's episode, we have an American writer, entrepreneur, and an academic researcher. This is Rhonda Parker Taylor. Pretty diverse, in terms of writing. Her writing spans from educational works to fiction. She is so well known for her research on emotional intelligence. My gosh, we always have these brilliant guests on the True Fiction Project. And her academic achievements extend to being a prominent leader presented at the United Nations Global Compact Committee. But today, she's here to talk about her debut novel, Crossroads, which is a suspenseful masterpiece. It was released February 2023. Without further ado, let's say hello to Rhonda. Hi, Rhonda. Welcome to the True Fiction Project.
How everybody? I'm so excited about meeting with you guys and having a great conversation. The one thing that I love about your podcast is you just really bring relevant conversations about fiction and true crime and all the wonderful things we like to get engrossed in and for entertainment, just to escape. It's like having a dream in our hands when we get a good book in our hands, isn't it?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. A little narcissistic as that might sound, this being my podcast. So interesting to sort of delve into your writing. You're a writer, an entrepreneur, and an academic researcher. Tell me a little bit about the difference between those, or the overlay, perhaps, if that's relevant.
Oh, it definitely is, because my entrepreneur and business background is what kind of laid the foundation for the fiction writing, and for the writing in general. First, I was never proficient at writing. When I was in business, starting out, one of the reasons that I way back then said, I want to write a novel and be a best-selling author is I had written a proposal to save the organization millions of dollars. When I did it, my boss, who was a vice president, said it was a great proposal, but you used the wrong insurer. There was a typo. And of course there was. There's no such thing as a perfect document, but I was mortified. And right then and there, I became committed that not only was I going to be a better employee in my writing and communication, but that I was also going to write the next best-selling novel. Now, did I really have the confidence to know that was going to happen? Probably not at that phase. It was just this burning desire, because I love to read and I love to tell stories. So as I was nurturing myself and my skills, and I started working in other projects and other industries, those stories started developing. And then I started jotting them down one at a time. So Crossroads is the first of 4 that I've written. The others are coming. But I decided what I wanted to do with the entrepreneurial part of it. I backed away from business and I got my doctorate in business. So I wanted to do the academic approach to things and teach others and use that mentorship part of me. And so I left corporate America to do academics, but life always has a different story for you. My son, my adopted son at the time, was tragically murdered at work. And I was in the midst of, it's almost like I wrote a story that's fiction. And then as my life continued from right after writing it, my life almost paralleled to it. And it was like, almost like I predicted, even though, the female character's not me, and it's the murder of a 15-year-old girl, not a young man that's in his adulthood life. But the emotions were there, and I got to see then that, okay, wait a minute, I need to completely redefine my life, not just in academics, but I opened up my consulting and started writing regularly, not only in academics for the emotional intelligence but also, refining my writing in general, from the fiction perspective. So they all came together, really. And I think that most people out there, off the air, we were talking, and one of your staff members was talking about, he'd like to write a novel himself. And,
Good for him.
a lot of us have stories out there,
Yeah.
And my advice to all the audience, if you have a story, write it. Doesn't matter if it's 10 pages, 25 pages, 100 pages. Sit down and write it. 1 page a day, and a novel's done in a year.
You have really hit on something. Firstly, I am so sorry to hear about your son. That is just, oh my gosh. And this thing that you mentioned, I completely resonate with it, because I have experienced myself, as woo-woo as it sounds, this reality where I write something and then after that it comes to life. It's happened once, twice, 3 times, multiple times in my life. I remember first telling my husband about it, and he thought I was completely out there. And then he saw it happen to the extent where he said, actually, sometimes I got some really dark ideas of things to write about. He actually said to me, don't do it.
Yeah, because it might come true. It's like your
intuition,
essence,
in essence,
your karma,
manifesting things,
your spirituality, maybe, your connection to the world, is connected in the arts. And when you're putting it down in paper, it's not that you're solidifying that, but I think that's also why I don't go in when my writing is more reality. There's enough bad and good in reality to not go into the fantasy. Yeah. I love reading it. I could never write a king novel like that, because it's so detailed into things that maybe my mind shouldn't entertain.
Right. So your story, your debut novel, Crossroads, was endorsed by Mariel Hemingway, a Golden Globe nominated actress. How did that happen? Yes.
First of all, I would have to say, for those in the younger generation that's part of your audience, Mariel Hemingway has a huge history. You would think of her as one of those people. Today she would be more like the Lopez, or one of the younger generations. That she's an Academy Award winning actress. She was a model. Her sister was famous, one of the highest paid models, and her grandfather is Ernest Hemingway, the great novelist. And
of all time, or one of them.
Times. No, yeah, you have to read it in every literature class as you're growing up. The Old Man and the Sea.
Anywhere in the world, exactly.
Anywhere. So I would never have thought that would happen for me. It wasn't like she was a neighbor or, somebody that I knew her. I was working with my publisher, who's Mindster Media. And rep that I was working with there, the agent, said, you really should consider getting Mariel Hemingway to read this. And at first I was like, well, if I was going to have an endorser, wouldn't you want like a Tori Spelling or, somebody that's in the genre of suspense? She's like, no, you need Mariel Hemingway.
Because?
And she said because her whole life is parallel to Paris Pennington, your main character. She said, she had excellence in her bones. She, worked hard, but she had to find life balance at a point in her life to protect her own mental health and ability to thrive in adulthood. And I thought, well, that kind of makes sense, so, what do I do to get her to consider it? And they said, first, write a query letter. We'll deliver it to her people with a copy of your manuscript. And then, we can start some negotiations if she decides to. And she released a video on YouTube after she read it, recommending it before we'd even gotten it to the press. And the one thing that she said that showed me that it resonated with her was at the very end. She said, there comes a point in everybody's life when they reach a crossroads. And during that period, you have to reevaluate who you are and your loyalties, because even chocolate has an expiration date.
I guess we all come to a crossroad that challenges us to look at our relationships, our friendships, and all the ways we show up in the world. Rhonda Parker Taylor's crime novel, Crossroads, takes you through a journey of reflection as you follow Paris Pennington and realization that even chocolate has an expiration date.
And I thought, she got it. She got the whole journey. So my hopes for the reader is that they realize it's not just the entertainment of the suspense thriller, but it's also to get people to think about the choices that they're making in their lives and the ability for them to make changes before something happens. In this case, not making the changes causes, the drama, the trauma, and the suspense throughout the whole book. However, in Paris's case, it could have been deadly. And it could be in ours, if we're not making the wise decisions.
Absolutely. My goodness, there is so much here. I cannot wait to actually myself devour this from cover to cover. But in the meantime, I know that you have an excerpt that you're going to read for us today for our listeners. So tell us about what that is before we dive into it.
Sure. So I picked up an excerpt from the beginning of the book, but not the first page. The first page is the actual scene of the crime. And I want that to be, to resonate with the readers in a different way, to pull them in as they start to read. But I picked one just at this, it's kind of the second scene.
Second scene.
Choices that a young man made that got him involved. And so I kind of felt like it would really kind of set up the idea of we are not only who we are with, but also, and surround ourselves with, but the choices that we make.
Rhonda, before we actually go into the fiction piece, do let us know where our listeners can find your work, buy your book, social media, any details you would like to give us.
I would love to. So since my name is Rhonda Parker Taylor, I try to make it as easy as possible because I'm one of those people, if I don't have it easy, I won't remember it. So my website is rhondaparkertaylor.com. All my social media is on there. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok. I'm trying. Haven't gotten my personality on there yet quite right, but I'll get it for you. LinkedIn, and feel free to drop me a comment, and I'll try to respond. Give me grace if it goes to the spam because it doesn't know you. Follow me, and let's go on the journey together.
Super. Well, that was Rhonda Parker Taylor. She is the author of Crossroads, which is her debut novel, and it is a suspenseful masterpiece. So I cannot wait to listen to her fiction read. Thank you, Rhonda. And now to the premise of the True Fiction Project, which of course is to create fiction out of nonfiction.
So we are talking about one of the main characters, Billy Neckel. I should have known something was up. Billy Knuckle had known Pee-wee his whole life. Why do I always trust him? He shouldn't. Pee-wee was always in trouble, but now Billy was in trouble with him, and he had no idea what to do. Even thinking about Pee-wee sent waves of panic through his bones. Billy sat upright in his bed and rubbed down his matted hair. His hungover body was hardly able to function due to the drugs and alcohol he had consumed at the party. He stretched, wincing in pain. His mother had been right. He should have stayed away from Pee-wee long ago. Dear God, let him leave me alone. He tried to convince himself that the images was just a dream, but he remembered Pee-wee winking and saying, "Stay here, we'll be right back." Billy hit the back of his head against the wall. No way. Why me? He wished he could undo the last few days, starting with the moment he agreed to ride with Pee-wee and the girl. "Billy, want to take a ride with us?" Pee-wee had asked. "I might even share." His immediate response was, "Why not? A little action sounded like fun." Besides, Pee-wee always joked about him not getting past first base with girls. He hadn't even been prepared for the screams, the gushing of the blood, the sudden quietness after she died. The pictures reeling in his head were like a horror movie. As he sat in the bed, he imagined the animals hiding in their dens, silent witnesses to the crime. How did I get home? Pulling himself out from the sheets, he moved towards the bathroom. Whose clothes am I wearing? He wondered as he paused for a second at the mirror. He rubbed his hands over the rough, unshaven face. His eyes were bloodshot and swollen half shut. "Look at you," he said out loud. He turned on the water with a shaking hand. Flow with it, and don't be afraid. He had convinced himself that it would be all right, but he winced at the thought of what he'd seen, heard, and felt. He tested the water temperature, and the warmth ran through his fingers. He looked down. Blood. No more blood. Please, no more blood. He remembered the images. Oh my God, what have I done? The screams echoed in his head. "Stop, I can't think." He pounded his head with his fist as the images played over and over, starting with the walk in the woods. Trick, trick, trick. The sound led him back to the present. He plunged his hunched body into the tub of water and lathered the soap, then began lathering all the vital parts of the body, even the crevice between the rolls in his midsection. He was only 21, but the drugs and alcohol had destroyed the best of him. Don't be afraid, and for heaven's sakes, don't panic. Everything's gonna be all right. He grabbed the towel and moved to the bedroom, wiping the water off his back. Sunlight poured through the dusty blinds, leaving a copper hue in the room. Billy pulled on a pair of shorts and headed to the kitchen. Let them catch Pee-wee before he hurts me. He opened the refrigerator. Leftover pizza, beer, eggs, and ketchup. He grabbed a cold beer and went back to the bed. Sitting down, he pressed the can tightly against his forehead. The coolness lessened the pounding, but it didn't lessen the headache. It was one of those rare occasions when taking his own life was more alluring than living. He looked around the small room in search of a way to leave the pain behind. As he looked, he knew he wouldn't end his life. He didn't have the courage to hurt a fly, let alone kill himself. He'd call his mother. She would know what to do.
Wonderful. Rhonda, thank you so much. I cannot wait to read the entire book. Thank you for being on the True Fiction Project.
Thank you for having me.
That was Rhonda Parker Taylor. She is an American writer, entrepreneur, and academic researcher, reading from her debut novel, Crossroads. And this is the True Fiction Project. I am your host, Renita Hora.
Thank you for listening to the True Fiction Project with Renita Hora. Be sure to subscribe to the newsletter to receive more inspiring stories showing how fiction is born from our everyday experiences. For more information, visit www.truefictionproject.com.